They say that the night before you give birth is supposed to be the most sacred time in a woman's life. It's supposed to be a time of nesting, of soft whispers, of final preparations for the soul that is about to enter the world. I am 39 weeks pregnant. Tomorrow, February 19th, is my induction date. Tomorrow, my body will become a bridge between worlds. But as I sit here in the nursery, a room painted in the softest lavender, filled with clothes that smell like hypoallergenic detergent and hope, I don't feel like a mother. I don't feel like a wife. I feel like a crime scene. My husband, Jax, is the kind of man people call a good provider. He works hard, he handles the bills, and he prides himself on the lifestyle we built. For Valentine's Day, just 4 days ago, he walked into the house with a wrap box that felt heavy and expensive. It was a high-end tablet. For the late nights, he had said, kissing my forehead, so you can watch your shows or read while the baby is nursing. I want you to have the best, honey. I felt so loved in that moment. I felt seen. I looked at him, this man who was about to become a father again, and I thought we had finally escaped the shadows of our past. I've been cheated on before in previous relationships that left me shattered, and Jax knew that. He had always promised he was different. He was a stability I had paid for with years of therapy and heartbreak. But the thing about modern love is that it lives in the cloud, and the cloud never forgets. Last night, I couldn't sleep. The weight of the baby and the anxiety of tomorrow kept me awake. I reached for the tablet. I wanted to set a photo of us, a beautiful shot from our maternity session, as the background. I wanted to look at our happiness every time I turned it on. Jax had set the tablet up using his Google account to save me the trouble. I opened the photo gallery, expecting to see a few screenshots or maybe some photos of the house. Instead, the screen began to populate with thumbnails. At first, I didn't understand what I was seeing. My brain, clouded by pregnancy hormones and exhaustion, tried to rationalize it. February 5th, a series of photos. Not of landscapes, not of our kids. They were candid, low-angle shots of his female co-workers' bodies, specifically their behinds. They were taken in a kitchen environment, the place where he works. Multiple shots, rapid fire, and then a photo of a woman I didn't know, a blonde girl, staring into the camera in a way that felt familiar and yet entirely alien. I felt a coldness spread from my chest down to my toes. The tablet felt like it was vibrating with a dark energy. I scrolled, my breath coming in ragged, shallow gasps. I wasn't just seeing photos. I was seeing a betrayal of the eyes. While I was at home, struggling to put on my own shoes, struggling with the physical toll of carrying his child. He was at work, using his phone as a weapon of voyeurism. I began to squall. Not just cry, squall. It was a sound that came from the very bottom of my soul. I felt the baby kick, a sharp, sudden movement that felt like a protest. I looked at the lavender walls, the expensive crib, the gift in my hands, and I realized that my life was a beautifully decorated lie. When Jax came home, I couldn't even look at him. I was shaking so hard the tablet nearly slipped from my hands. I showed him the screen. I didn't say a word. I just held the evidence of his wandering eyes in front of his face. The silence lasted for what felt like an hour. Then the corporate Jax took over. The man who can talk his way out of any budget deficit or staff conflict began to weave a narrative. "Honey, it's not what it looks like," he said, his voice calm, almost soothing. I swear, it was an accident. He explained that he was in the kitchen at work, listening to music through his Bluetooth headphones. He said the music was too loud, and when he went to reach for his phone to turn it down, he was accidentally hitting a button repeatedly. He claimed the volume button and the camera shutter are integrated in a way that caused a rapid-fire response. "I felt like a creep the second I realized it," he said, his eyes moistening with a practiced sincerity. I went to delete them immediately because I knew how bad it would look. I thought they were gone. I didn't realize they had already uploaded to cloud. And the blonde girl? A girl from high school, he said. A friend! And I were just talking about people we used to know on Facebook. I sent him a photo to see if it was the same person. It was a split-second thing. I don't even have her number, I swear. He sounded so honest. If I didn't know him, if I didn't know the way he gaslights me in normal conversations about the dishes or the chores, I might have believed him. But standing there, hours away from giving birth, I realized that his honesty was just another high-end product he was trying to sell me. The most painful part isn't the photos. It's the timing. In less than 24 hours, I have to go to a hospital and be at my most vulnerable. I have to trust this man to be my advocate, my partner, and my strength. And yet, I look at myself in the mirror and I feel ugly. I feel unworthy. Pregnancy changes a woman's body in ways that are both miraculous and terrifying. You lose your sense of self. You become a vessel. And to know that while I was in this state, my husband was seeking out the perfection of others, even if it was just through a lens, is a wound that no apology can heal. I'm so sorry you feel this way, he told me, trying to hug me. I hate that phrasing. I'm sorry you feel this way. Not, I'm sorry I did this. He shifted the burden of the pain onto my reaction rather than his actions. It's a classic move in the relationship plus money power play. He provides a house, the tablet, the stability, so I should be grateful enough to ignore the glitches in his character. I spent the night in the nursery, sitting in the rocking chair. I thought about the money we've spent on this baby, the thousands of dollars in gear, the insurance premiums, the planned future. We have built a magnificent structure, but the foundation is made of sand. Jax is asleep in our room. He's probably dreaming of a world where his cloud doesn't sink his secrets. And I am here, wonder if I could ever look at him again without seeing the rapid-fire images of other women. So here I am. February 19th is looming. The sun will rise in a few hours, and we will drive to the hospital. We will check in, we will sign the papers, and we will bring a child into this world. I am caught in a trap that so many women find themselves in. If I leave, I break the family before it even begins. I trigger a legal and financial nightmare during the most physically demanding time of my life. I lose the provider I thought I had. But if I stay, I am accepting a life of digital shadows. I am accepting that my husband is a man who accidentally takes photos of other women's bodies. I am accepting that his gifts come with a hidden cost, the cost of my own self-worth. I feel like a fool. I feel like I've been cheated on in the most ridiculous way possible, and yet he's too good at making me doubt my own eyes. To anyone watching or listening, trust your gut. Gifts are beautiful, and financial security is a blessing, but they are not substitutes for integrity. A man can buy you the world, but if he can't keep his eyes and his heart in the home he's building with you, the world he bought is just a prison. Tomorrow I will hold my child. I will look into those brand new eyes, and I will promise them one thing. I will never let them believe that a lie is okay just because it's wrapped in an expensive box. The tablet is sitting on the nursery table, glowing in the dark. It's a beautiful piece of technology. But every time I look at it, all I see is the truth he didn't want me to find. I'm going to the hospital now. Wish me luck. Not for birth. I know I can handle that. Wish me luck for the life that comes after. They say that water has a way of loosening the tongue, but I never expected it to drown my heart. It was a Tuesday in November. The air in our backyard was crisp, the kind of New England autumn night that makes you grateful for the steaming warmth of a hot tub. We were sitting there, surrounded by the soft hum of the jets and the glow of the purple LED lights reflecting off the water. For a moment, it felt like the old days. No kids screaming in the house, no dogs barking at the fence, just me and Elena. 20 years together, 15 years of marriage. We are the couple people look at and think, they made it. We were talking, not arguing, just drifting through a conversation about the future. When she said it, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't look angry. She just stared at the steam rising into the dark blue night and said, I married you when I was broken and didn't know what I was doing. The world didn't stop, but the air in my lungs did. 20 years of history, 2 children, a mortgage, and a lifetime of shared secrets suddenly felt like they were written in disappearing ink. I sat there, the hot water suddenly feeling like ice, watching the woman I'd spent my entire adult life protecting look at me as if I were a mistake she'd made while she was under the influence of her own trauma. To understand why those words felt like a physical blow, you have to understand where we started. When Elena and I began dating, I was her safe harbor. Her childhood was a storm I can barely describe without breaking down. Her father was a shadow of a man, hateful, aggressive, and toxic. Her mother wasn't much better, a secondary hater who fueled the chaos of Elena's world. I didn't know the full extent of the wounds she carried back then. I just knew she was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. Truly out of my league, according to everyone we knew. I was the guy who stayed. I was the one who listened when she cried about her father's latest outburst. I was the one who provided the stability she had never known. We got married, and almost instantly, the weather changed. The woman who had found me safe suddenly saw me as a threat. I didn't understand it then, but she was suffering from deep-seated trauma. Because I was now the man in her life, her brain, rewired by years of past wounds, waited for me to turn into her father. She projected all his toxicity onto me, even though I was doing everything in my power to be his opposite. I spent a decade being the buffer between her and her past. I built the house. I secured the finances. I did the work. I thought that by being the perfect husband, I could heal her. I thought my love was a medicine. But sitting in that hot tub in November, I realized she didn't see me as her healer. She saw me as her crutch. And now that she felt stronger, she wanted to throw the crutch away. The broken comment was just the beginning. Since that night, it's like a veil has been lifted, and I'm seeing the reality of our relationship plus money dynamic for what it truly is, a treadmill I can never run fast enough to win. Elena has developed a hierarchy in our house. In her mind, she is a more attractive one, the better person, the one who has ascended. And because she believes she is superior, she has given herself permission to nitpick every single second of my existence. It doesn't matter if I'm performing at 110%. It doesn't matter if I've handled the kids, the dogs, and the bills. Every single day, without fail, she finds a reason to start on me. It's a slow, steady erosion of my self-worth, delivered with a calm, condescending tone that makes me feel like a subordinate employee rather than a partner. A perfect example happened just last weekend. I had planned a trip for her, a long weekend away to clear our heads. I drove 8 hours from our home to a sentimental spot from our dating years. I booked a dinner at a high-end restaurant, the kind of place where you have to book months in advance and dress to nines. We had a satisfying meal. The lighting was low, the wine was perfect, and for a few hours, the tension seemed to melt. But the moment we stepped out into the night air, she turned to me and said, "You never take me out to fancy dinners. I want a life where we actually dress up." I was stunned. Elena, we literally just finished a 3-course meal at one of the best restaurants in the state. I can name 4 other high-end places we've been to this year alone. She didn't even acknowledge the facts. She just pivoted. "Well, you need to talk to other dudes to see what they do for their wives. You're clearly missing something." When she told me I needed to talk to other dudes, I felt a surge of frustration I hadn't felt in years. "Who, Elena?" I asked. "Which of our friends or anyone we know is doing a better job than this?" Who is providing more stability, more effort, or more romantic gestures than what I'm doing right now? She couldn't name a single person. Not one. But she didn't back down. Instead, she moved the goalpost again. Maybe you just need to watch some videos on how to be a better husband, a better lover. You're just not there. It's a specific kind of cruelty to tell a man who has dedicated 20 years to your well-being that he needs to watch a tutorial on how to love you. It's especially cruel when that advice comes from someone who admits they only chose you because they were broken. I've started to realize that this isn't about the dinners. It isn't about the other dudes. It's about her need to keep me beneath her. If she acknowledges that I'm doing a great job, then she has to acknowledge that she is the one who is difficult to please. But if she keeps me in a state of constant improvement, she maintains a power. She uses every excuse in the book to justify her behavior. For the last 23 days, she's been claiming she's about to get her period as a shield for her attitude. I'm a patient man. I understand the biological cycle. But 23 days of being a Krabbus, as I call it, isn't a cycle. It's a choice. It's an excuse to be unkind without consequence. In our world of relationship plus money, we have everything people strive for. We have the beautiful house, the career stability, and the perfect family image. But I'm realizing that I've invested all my capital, emotional and financial, into a sinking fund. I look at our life and I wonder, am I a husband or am I a placeholder? Was I just a safe place she needed while she was hiding from her father? And now that the safe place feels too small for her new ego, she's looking for a way out? When she says she didn't know what she was doing when she married me, she's essentially saying that our entire 15-year marriage was a mistake made by a person who wasn't in her right mind. It devalues every sacrifice I've made. Every time I held her while she cried about her trauma, every time I stood up to her family, every time I worked late to ensure her kids had the best life possible, it's all being framed as a byproduct of her brokenness. I'm standing in a house I built for a woman who thinks she's doing me a favor by staying in it. So, where does that leave a man like me? I'm 110% in. I'm the guy who drives 8 hours for a sentimental meal. I'm the guy who handles the chaos without complaint. But I'm also the guy who is tired of being the only one trying to maintain the safe haven. Is it possible to heal a marriage when one person believes the very foundation was a mistake? Can you ever be attractive enough or good enough for someone who views you as a relic of their darkest time? I don't have the answers yet, but I do know that you can't run a relationship like a business where one partner is always under review. Eventually, the employee is going to quit. I'm sitting here, looking at the photos from our wedding 15 years ago. She looks beautiful, yes, but I look like a man who thought he was starting a life with his best friend. Now, I look in the mirror and I see a man who is being nailed to the cross every day for the crime of being the one who stayed when things were broken. The steam from the hot tub has long since faded, but the weight of that sentence remains. I married you when I was broken. Maybe she was broken then, but the way she's treating me now, that's what's really breaking us. They say that when you're told you're infertile, your world ends a sterile office filled with the smell of antiseptic and broken dreams. 4 months ago, that was my reality. The doctor sat across from me, looking at a folder that contained the death warrant for my hopes of motherhood. The chances of you conceiving naturally, he said, are near zero. I was hollowed out, but my husband, Jax, was my rock, or so I thought. He held my hand that night, whispering that he just wanted to be a father, that we would find a way, and that he loved me more than my biological function. Then the impossible happened. 2 lines appeared on a plastic stick. A miracle. I was pregnant. In the middle of the storm that was beginning to shake our marriage, I thought this baby was the anchor that would save us. But today, as I sit in my old childhood bedroom at my parents' house, Staring at a stomach that is still flat but holds a universe of trouble, I realize this miracle is actually my prison. I am 24 years old. My husband is 25. We should be arguing over nursery themes and baby names. Instead, we have been separated for 6 weeks. 6 weeks of silence. 6 weeks of tears. And 6 weeks of realizing that the man I thought was my protector is the very person allowing his mother to dismantle my life. Every morning, the physical sickness of pregnancy greets me, but the sickness in my heart is far worse. I am weak, I am ill, and I am utterly alone in this experience. This pregnancy has made me physically fragile, but the situation is forcing me to find a strength I never knew I possessed. This collapse didn't happen slowly. It happened with a calculated explosion. 6 weeks ago, Jax decided we needed space. He said his mother felt I wasn't the right wife for him. And Jax, the man I thought was my leader, couldn't find the breath to say no to her. I moved to my parents' home temporarily because the first trimester was ravaging my body. I was too sick to stand, let alone fight. Jax was supposed to visit me. He was supposed to bring me home. But every time he showed up, he brought his uncle. Imagine that. I am your wife, carrying your child, and you bring backup just to talk to me? As if I were a dangerous enemy instead of the woman you claim to love. The breaking point came last week. I needed my basic belongings. My clothes, my documents, the essentials for my prenatal care. I went to our house, the house we built together, the house where I had placed all my hopes. The locks had been changed. I stood there, turning a handle that wouldn't budge, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. I had to call the police just to enter my own home. And there she was, my mother-in-law. She stood in the driveway, watching me with a look of pure, unadulterated triumph. She began throwing my things out in black trash bags. My clothes, my memories, my dignity, all treated like refuse. But the most calculated blow was the gold. The jewelry gifted to me at our wedding, my dowry, my security, they held it back. They went through every bag, every box, keeping every gram of gold for themselves. They didn't just evict me. They robbed me while I was carrying their heir. She screamed in front of the officers that I was a liar. She told them this pregnancy was a fiction, a drama I invented to trap her son. And Jax? He stood there, watching his mother humiliate his pregnant wife. Later, he told my brother I was using the baby to emotionally manipulate him. How does a man who begged to be a father turn around and call his own child a weapon of manipulation? My mother-in-law has always been a shadow over our marriage. Before we even said our vows, she had already decided the names of my future children. She dictated every detail of Jax's life, and she expected to do the same with mine. I remember a conversation we had months ago about parenting. I mentioned that I wanted to be strict with a healthy diet, no processed sugars, no junk food for the baby. She laughed in my face. When they are at my house, she said, I will feed them whatever I want. You won't have a say. At the time, I thought it was just the overbearing comment of an excited grandmother. Now, I see it was a declaration of war. She didn't want a grandchild. She wanted a new doll to control. And she had already decided that I was an obstacle to be removed. Now, I'm almost 9 weeks pregnant. I still love Jax, but that love is now poisoned by a paralyzing fear. This relationship is too far gone to fix. How can I go back to a house where the locks were changed while I was vomiting from morning sickness? How can I let my child be raised by a family that treats their mother like a stray animal? Jax refuses to divorce me. He tells his friends, if there really is a child, I can't divorce her. If she's really pregnant, we'll have to work something out. The word, if. They are waiting for me to miscarry. I can feel in their silence. They haven't checked on me in a month. No, how is the baby? Or, do Do you need vitamins? They are just waiting for this miracle to disappear so they can discard me without any legal or moral consequences. Meanwhile, Jax is telling everyone I am mentally unstable, setting the stage to take the child from me in court before it's even born. And here is where I find myself, at the edge of a cliff. I am thinking about an abortion. It is a thought that makes my skin crawl. I have always loved children. I was told I was infertile. This baby is a biological impossibility that came true. But every night, I stay awake, mapping out the next 18 years. If I keep this child, I am tied to Jax and his mother forever. I will be in a never-ending custody war. They will try to brainwash my child to hate me. They will use the legal system to harass me. I will live in constant terror that one day they will successfully take my baby and hand it over to the woman who threw my life into trash bags. If I have the abortion, I am free. They can no longer say I am manipulating him. Jax will have no excuse to delay the divorce. I can move on, disappear, and start a life where I don't have to look over my shoulder. There is a dark, petty part of me that wants to do it just to hurt him. I want to show him that he was so unworthy of being a father that I chose to end the pregnancy rather than let him have any part of it. I know that sounds cruel. I know it sounds vindictive. But the pain of being betrayed while carrying a life makes you think thoughts you never thought you were capable of. Then I feel a tiny flutter, or maybe it's just my imagination. How can I hurt something so innocent just because its father is a coward? I feel like running away, giving birth in secret, and changing my name. But is that a life for a child? A life on the run? Could this ever recover? Would a child coming into the picture soften Jax's heart? I used to believe that. Now I know better. A child doesn't fix a broken marriage. A child only becomes a witness to the wreckage. Jax has already chosen his mother over his wife. He has already chosen slander over protection. I am stuck at the most cruel crossroads imaginable. On one side is a miracle I always dreamed of, but one that will be born into a battlefield. On the other side is a freedom that must be paid for with the life of my own child. I don't know what to do. I am terrified every night. Why won't he divorce me? Is it love? Or is it just a desire for control over a child he hasn't even seen? If you were me, what would you do? Would you hold on to a miracle that might never happen again? Or would you cut the ties to save yourself from a family that wants to destroy you? My name doesn't matter. But my story is a warning. Be careful who you build a future with. Because sometimes the person you want to give the gift of a child to is the very person who will use that child to keep you in a prison of misery.